How's it going, everybody, and welcome to episode 239 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode is going to be a good one. I'm actually joined by Gert from Caherhurley Nurseries. Now, for any of you that have been listening to the podcast over a long period of time, Caherhurley has come up quite a few times. So, different garden designers and different gardeners would rely on Caherhurley for plants, rare and unusual plants, hardy plants, and they're well respected within the sort of garden designers and gardeners space. And the nursery is slightly unusual within the horticultural industry generally, but particularly here in Ireland. It's a fully organic nursery. It's based in County Clare. They're, as I say, fully organic certified, and they grow plants in a kind of a hardy way. So when you get your plants, they're not going to look exactly what they'd look like, say, in a big box garden center, but they will grow superbly well when they get home. And it's a really interesting story. And as I said, delighted to be joined by Gert. So Gert, you're very, very welcome to Master My Garden podcast.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for having me on.
So before we get into it, as I say, you've been mentioned quite a few times on the podcast over the last number of years by various different people. Most recently, I guess, by Des Dial, who sings your praises quite a lot, and I think mentions you in his recent book. And he's not the only one, as I said. There has been others as well. So really, really great to have you on and to hear, I suppose, the story of Caherhurley, because it's you're a specialist grower. You're grown organically. You're grown in Clare, which again is unusual. There's not many nurseries in Clare. I know there has been some over the years, but there isn't many out there. So maybe tell us a little bit about your story and how this came to be, how you came to be in County Clare, and how the nursery came about.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're growing plants for the last 40 years. Let's say 15 years um, in the Netherlands, and then 25 years here in Ireland. And what brought us to County Clare? Well, yeah, we love County Clare, and just by coincidence, just like many things in life, they happen by coincidence. We got a phone call from a man in Limerick, and he said, you have to come here and I'll show you this and that. And we went, and Elizabeth went, and I was at home in the Netherlands. I got a phone call home from Elizabeth, my wife, and she said, "Yeah, I have to come over because we're gonna live here." As simple as that. So,
Just like
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I got over, and said, "Yeah, you have the choice between three farms." And we chose the most remote one. You're like, no neighbors, no nothing. The soil is crap, but the scenery is great. And yeah, we love Ireland because of the scenery. Holland is flat, became boring after 50 years. 50 years I was 50, Elizabeth a bit shorter, but anyway. Yeah, and like the scenery, but we also like the helpfulness of the people here. The neighbors were so helpful for us, and yeah, we liked it. And I remember one elderly neighbor telling, she said, what did you bring over to Ireland? He couldn't understand,
Yeah.
because he was never been outside Ireland. And he said, why Ireland? I said, yeah, I like the scenery, and I like people are nice, and I like the climate. I said, what about climate? Well, things grow very well. The winters are very mild here. He said, yeah, the winters are mild, but they tend to last all year. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're
it's not the
definitely
case
my,
now anymore with some hot summers now. But no, we never look back, and it all went well for us. And well, we started growing plants. We sold them in the Ennis farmers market. Just a few plants here and there. And at that time, let's say 20, 22 years ago, people in Ireland would not everybody would be ready to understand gardening with perennial plants, which we grow. And people were saying, "What is this? It's not bedding. It's not a shrub. What is it?" And then you explain, well, it comes back year after year. And I must say, I got very good response because people say, "Oh yeah, I take a few man." People are very open-minded and very much into, yeah, they would actually believe what you say, like so, and would be willing to try it. And very open-minded, and I love this about Ireland.
Mm-hmm. And at that, we'll come back to the weather in a second. And at that time, like it would have been very much, 25 years ago, you would have been looking at a lot of, in terms of planting in Ireland at that stage, you would have been looking at a lot of shrubs. You would have been particularly looking at a lot of conifers. That was the sort of trend of the time, was conifers, shrubs. And yeah, there would have been very little by way of perennials at that stage. So I guess that was a bit of a transition, but they're very much in vogue now, I guess, and for good reason. So yeah, it was good timing. Interesting on the weather thing, isn't it? Because you come over from Holland, and the conditions are very suitable for growing. And something that I've noticed, I've mentioned on the podcast a few times, and I don't know, it'd be interesting to hear your take on it over the 25 years that you've been growing here. There definitely seems to be, now I know the West Coast gets probably more rain days anyway in the year than say the Midlands or the East Coast. But your take on sunlight levels, they just seem to be quite low for the last couple of years. Is that something you're noticing? Is it something that you had noticed in other years or in other cycles at any stage over the years?
Yes, yeah. We notice a lack of sunlight. That means, let's say, when we came from the Netherlands, we brought all our 900 different varieties with us to grow here, and some wouldn't do because just by the lack of sunlight, and
Hmm.
let's see, these plants would be originally from more sunny areas, and they wouldn't grow, and we simply had to drop them.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some things would grow here that would never do in the Netherlands, and particular one variety that does very well here in Ireland is the Astantias. We had a quite big range of Astantias, and well, in the Netherlands, it's so hot now. They nurseries are dropping these plants because the summers are too hot and too dry to survive. And here in the west of Ireland, they thrive, and they do
Hmm.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just an adaption over time, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So the nursery itself, so originally you started off doing, farmers markets and so on. That's kind of, the origins of your selling. And now the nursery is very, people come to your nursery. There's no farmers markets as such, but you also do online trading. You're fully certified. So tell us about the nursery as it is today now, and what makes you guys, I guess, unique to others.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, see, until the lockdown came, we sold our plants on farmers market and plant fairs.
Hmm.
And that was good. But well, farmers, I mean, let's say the plant fairs were quite a lot of work. You have to pack the van, and when you come back the next day, you have to unload it. So half of the week would be gone, and there was too little time for growing. And
Yes.
the other thing is on plant fairs, you meet people only very briefly. They go from the brush from one stand to another, and that wasn't really. I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I was happy to open the nursery here in County Clare. And the other thing is because of my medical journey, I couldn't travel anymore at that time,
Hmm.
so I had to stay at home. I'm fully recovered from cancer, but I was almost gone. So I'm happy to be back. And what often happens with people having so close to the end of their life, they say, okay, for the rest of my life, I try to do something, well, useful, and we like to make a small contribution to a better world and we did it by, uh, by, let's say, growing plants in an organic way, in a sustainable way, that you wouldn't put, that you would be very careful in using the resources, um, and and offer to the gardens of Ireland something that is quite different. And what's different? Well, the difference in the difference in what we grow is certified organic. That means we don't use pesticides and any chemicals, and also no fertilizers. And certified is basically the only way. It's a guarantee that you don't do anything bad for the environment. And the specific thing of outdoor growing is, and you also mentioned, well, I think Des mentioned it in his podcast. We grow everything outside. Everything from day one is outside to to get really hardy plants. Now here in this harsh conditions, in this slope where we are on the foothills of the Sleeve Bernard Mountain, the harsh conditions mean you get really small and compact plants. And but once people would plant them in the garden, then they burst out into something big, like, and they're hardy, and they're very used to the challenging circumstances of the Irish climate. And the other specific thing about our plants is we like to grow unusual plants. We have a wide range of unusual plants, and that's driven by the need for biodiversity. Biodiversity is more than only growing native plants. Now, don't get me wrong, we do grow since recently a large number of native Irish plants, but native plants alone isn't good enough for biodiversity. And I can tell this from my background. Uh, but it doesn't. Well, anyway, anyone who comes to visit, I can explain it. For the rest, is let's say our plants are. The specific thing about our plants is we have a preference for plants with a subtle beauty, meaning very let's say transparent plants, and we because there are already so many plants that have direct impact. You see them everywhere, like that's fine, that's fine. People can get them everywhere, like, but something with subtle beauty is also something that you wouldn't see, it wouldn't notice straight away. And here at the nursery, when visitors come, they can see all the different varieties, and they can be. We like to have to let we want people to be inspired by what they see. I don't have to tell anything. People who come here at the nursery, they wander around for a few hours without any questions and just being there and relaxed. And it's a very quiet surrounding here because it's in the middle, the middle of County Clare, and very quiet and nice scenery. For the rest, what we also do, we like classic garden plants. We're not bothered by fashion. Like fashion is fine for people who like it, but we stay away from the mainstream, and we like classic plants. For instance, plants might have gone out of fashion, and they like hardy geraniums, the phloxes with their fragrance. And we like to grow the type of plants that have gone out of fashion but still are very good and almost forgotten. And then of course we have the native plants and a lot of pollinator plants. And what's also specific about our nursery is the layout. It's something that it didn't happen overnight. By over the years we improved the layout, and we have tables with, let's say, with plants with fragrance, plants with fine leaves, and plants with big leaves for a good, let's say, for a good texture in the garden, and plants for damp spaces, and etc. And for the rest, what's specific about our nursery is, well, we have sustainability. I mean, we use, for instance, one instance, we use plastic pots. Fine. Now, most people say, oh yeah, these can be recycled. No, you can bring the pots here that for plants here, and we use them again. Reusing costs less energy than recycling. Recycling, heat, means more CO2 emission. But that's just one example. And we're happy to offer an alternative for people who like it. And we get I must say we got a huge response. I mean, since we didn't do the plant fairs anymore, we sell 3 times as many plants as we did before. Like, and because people are drawn by the let's say, by things we do, and we do the things here with a smile. It's not all serious. There's a lot of fun here, and
I can
we have
imagine.
a lot of friends with the team here. Like, yeah, it's a great place to be here. Of course, I cannot do this on my own, so we have Elizabeth, and we have my colleague Kate, O'Shaughnessy, and she's good in designing things, and she makes small sketches for people who need a lot of plants and to plant the whole area. And yeah, and every Tuesday morning we go for breakfast, and yeah, here in the local pub, and yeah, it's
Nice.
great life here.
Yeah, sounds good. And you mentioned I think this is probably a big reason for the draw. Obviously, the way you grow things, the type of plants, the fact that people are taking these home and almost always having success with them because of the hardiness of the plant. I think that's definitely a big thing as well. When sometimes you buy a plant that has been fed, a lot of feed, you take it home on day one and it looks, in your eyes, it looks big and healthy and strong and flowering and all those good things. But there's only one way for it to go from that position. It gets a shock after hitting the ground. It looks a little bit worse than the day you picked it up. Whereas when you buy plants, hardier plants, like what you guys are doing, they might be small and compact, but from that day forward, they're always going to be improving, getting bigger, flourishing, I guess. And I think that's a big draw. But also the fact that, if somebody has a little area that they want to get designed or they want to get, planted out, the fact that you offer that service where you'll sketch out something for somebody is a huge thing. And the success of that. So 12 months down the line, after someone has taken those plants home, followed the little sketch that they've got there, that area is going to look supreme. And then they'll probably move on to the next area and again revert back to you guys for that. So I think that's probably a huge part of the success as well, I would think.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the huge response we got. Well, we said, okay, we started with, okay, I'll make a drawing, and we went in the kitchen and with the visitors, and they told us yeah, their preferences, and yeah, and then we made a sketch and looked for the plant. Now we do it different. Kate goes with the visitors to the plants and say, okay, show me a bit what you like here, because it has to be your garden, not something that we design.
Yeah.
No, and then oh yeah, I like this and that. Okay, and then she makes a sketch, and that's how it works. Like,
Yeah, excellent.
and and people can avail of this service uh, by booking a time slot. Like,
Yeah.
you can ring us for a time slot, and
Yeah.
they get the exclusive attention of Kate for about an hour, sometimes 2 hours.
Very good, very good. So just on the propagation side of it. So you said, I think, that you initially came here with kind of 700 plants from Holland, and some of them didn't thrive here. So I'm sure that number has changed since, and probably some have been added. So roughly speaking, are you growing in the region of 700 still, or is it more or less roughly?
Yeah, it will be slightly more than 1,000, but some are not yet for sale because, well, they just recently added.
Yeah,
We add new things as well, and that's interesting because I tell you, see, the plants that are generally available, let's say for the last 50 years, they were originally discovered somewhere in the wild, and they were uh, grown and selected. And these plants were not necessarily the best ones. They were only interesting because they had commercial value. People saying, "Oh yeah, big flowers, big. We can sell this, fine." Like, but in recent expeditions, plant hunters found much more interesting plants with a more subtle beauty, but let's say commercial growers wouldn't be interested in it because there's no money in it. Now I'm interested, like, and that's the kind of plant I like to grow.
yeah. So unusual type things.
Yeah, unusual and better indeed, yeah. Because
Better.
everything that's on the market and commercially promoted is not necessarily the best. Now there are exceptions, of course, like because yeah, but in general, we're very happy with a number of new varieties that we found that we grew on that were discovered let's say in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And that has also to do with like say, 20, 30, 40 years ago, there was a different demand for plants. Like now people are more into, let's say, a good example is umbellifers. Like, umbellifers, well, you wouldn't see many 10, 20 years ago, and sanguisorbas, for instance. Now there's coming more and more.
Mhm.
And the interest in all these natural looking plants with a sort of beauty has grown.
Yeah, there's definitely a move particularly over the last 10 years, to more natural
Yeah,
style planting, and even plants that are, as you said, have little small windows, so they mightn't necessarily flower for huge periods of time, but in that period of time where they do, they really star. And there's a kind of a demand for that sort of interest as well, where it might be just a little window of beauty, but people like that now as well.
yeah, but if I may in addition, I can say, let's say the umbellifers, they might flower for sure, but the leaves, usually they're fine divided leaves, they're interested for the whole garden season, like, so that makes them, it's not only the flower, but indeed you have a point here. Let's say designers, they tend to, let's say the professional designers who are qualified to do this, they tend to, well, the customer wants to see good beauty all year, like all year. So you have a lot of plants that have good foliage qualities.
Mhm.
That's necessary. But also by using those kind of plants, you limit yourself because there's so much subtle beauty in plants that would be neglected by designers because they flower only for a short time. And also these plants might take more maintenance because when the leaves are when the flower time is over, let's say perennial and the flower time is over, you have to cut them back. And that's the modern customer has no time anymore for the garden.
Mhm.
The modern let's say clients of designers, they you have well they usually have jobs and wouldn't have much time but lucky enough there's a great cohort of people who, let's say, pensioners or people who don't work full week anymore, and they love to go in the garden and cut back the plants and see them grow again. And that that I would I would like to put in a few good words for those plants.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So we'll chat about the propagation side of it. So over 1,000 varieties now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said everything is grown outside.
Yeah,
So is that so you're propagating, I guess, by seed, by cutting, by division?
yeah,
I
yeah,
presume they're your main methods of propagation,
yeah.
and
That's
and
right. And
and
people,
and everything is outside then.
yeah, everything's outside. People
Wow.
can actually see in our let's say our Instagram account. We quite regularly post videos of how I do this. Like, see, guys, here is the material that I take cuttings from, and that's what you have to do. For instance, you have to when you take cuttings, for instance, you have to prepare the mother stock plants by cutting it back in spring and uh, to get a lot of shoots, and not take cuttings while it's in full flower, like. And
Hmm.
but indeed, everything's outside. That means we harvest the seeds, sow them directly when the seeds are ripe, and then the next spring they would germinate. And so, some seeds we will save them over winter and do them in spring. We usually do that in the month of May, and the cuttings the first cuttings we take in May, and the last cuttings will be taken in um, the end of July. And now you could still take cuttings this time of the year as August, but not here because they wouldn't be hardy enough to survive the winter because they're sometimes we get -10, even -15 because in the frost pocket.
Hmm.
And the cutting has to be able to yeah to survive these temperatures.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you something interesting as well about the propagation side of it, because
Yep.
not every gardener would realize how much work it is. The thousand. I mean, it's so, yeah, it looks like a lot of work, and I tell you, it is like. And I get up early in the morning. Let's say, for instance, taking the cuttings. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and at 3:30 I'm taking the cuttings because then the shoots are still fresh and young and good to harvest. And yeah, well, it's long days, and also let's say you have to. Sometimes young guys come here with, let's say, horticultural students, and I show them the different ways of the classes, the different ways of propagation, and I say, guys, look here, look at the nursery. If you want to have a nursery like this, you have to have a number of qualities. And I'm not saying I have these qualities. I'm not practicing what I preach anyway. But first of all, you have to have the love for the passion for the plants, and that's usually no problem. But also you have to be able to organize the whole thing, that you do everything in time. You have to, have to somewhere in the mind you have to be able to, yeah, to plan the day, that in the end of the day you have done what you should have done. Like, and the other thing that you have to have is you have to have a drive to get things done. Like, meaning you have to well, you have to well, okay, if that's, for instance, you're waiting here and take the plants or the, no, that's not where your focus should be. Your focus should be at the end of the bay, because that's where you want to be with reading at the break, like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the last thing you have to have the quality. You have to. I mean, your social life is in the nursery. There's no going to the pub. There's no holidays. No nothing. Your
Yeah.
social life is in the nursery. And then, of course, you have to find yourself a partner in life who can cope with all these things.
Yeah, yeah, with the up at 4 o'clock instead of lying in for a lazy morning, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get back to the plants, so you mentioned some of the categories. So a lot of what you grow is pollinator friendly, but you grow hardy, unusual plants. Uh, Mostly perennials, I think, but maybe take us through some of the star performers. Like you've 1,000 plants, so we're not going to be able to touch on them all. But say, for
Mm.
example, some of the areas that people typically struggle with, I suppose the most common being shade, and particularly dry shade. What kind of
Yeah.
what kind of plants do you have in that category, let's say?
Yeah, indeed, most plants for shade have they like damp soil as well, and
Yeah.
that is that is often a problem. But what I we have a special area with for shade, and I found out that a lot of these plants, although they like damp soil, they're very adaptable. They're very yeah. They also can cope with drier conditions. One What we found out is, for instance, the astilbes. They like shade, but you can also put them in the sun as long as the soil doesn't dry out completely, and you can also put them in the. But indeed, it's but there's not many plants that can cope with dry shade, and I don't have um, anything here in particular in mind at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Astilbes, now that you mentioned it, Astilbes are a brilliant plant because they will literally grow anywhere, and they
Yeah,
have a beautiful flower, nice, interesting foliage, and there's newer ones coming on stream all the time, and some of them are really deep red flower, and then you have pinks and whites and so on, but they're a really tough plant and pretty much will grow anywhere, as you said. And I wouldn't say they're underrated, but they're definitely not as common as you would think they would be, considering how versatile they are.
yeah, indeed. And there's another one that you wouldn't think about that could cope with dry conditions in shade, and that's the Epimedium frohnleiten. That's the one that, yes, Des uses in most of his designs anyway. So it's really hard to keep up with the demand from Des's gardens that he designs. But that does very well in shade and has beautiful leaves. And but it does also in the sun and also in dry shade and dry sun. I found out nobody seems to know this, but yeah, that's one that we would recommend anyway.
Yeah. And the other plants then, so you have the shaded areas. What other categories? You mentioned that they're all laid out in their categories down there. What other categories did you say you had? So there was highly
Yeah, well,
scented.
plants for fragrance, for instance,
Yeah.
and that's the phloxes, and there's also um, unusual primroses with a strong fragrance that we put there, and of course we do shrubs as well, and let's say the duchias, the duchia, and then the winter flowering Lonicera fragrantissima, but the name tells it all, and yeah, that's a category of there's a lot of interest there, and another category is native plants. That's very interesting because some people they swear with native plants. It has to be
Hmm.
native, and I think it is. Yeah, well, especially tidy towns and let's say community projects, they very much into that. And I think it's also because tidy towns they get extra points for for pollinators and native plants, and
Yeah.
that's good, right? And say native plants are when it comes to let's say biodiversity, I think we have to make a division between gardens and the rest of the countryside. Like uh, biodiversity, native plants, that's what you need in the hedgerows and everywhere, right? And but when it comes to a garden, you can make beautiful, uh, let's say, combination of native plants with plants that have a natural appearance, like natural
Hmm.
that they do quite natural, and they don't necessarily have to come from Ireland. Like uh, we're um, we're very broad-minded in that respect, and yeah, biodiversity is more than native plants by itself. Another category would be yeah, plants for damp soil, of course, and tell you after 9 months of rain, there's no lack of damp soil here. Here we are.
Yeah, so in that category then, what's in that category? Just even some of the top
Yeah.
performers in that category.
Good performers are the Dharmara, for instance, but you have to realize Dharmara peltata is well, it's almost invasive, like so you plant it well in an area where it can work its way around. Dharma and lobelia, but only the hardy lobelias. We found out that a lot of the lobelia speciosa is just not hardy here, like. And we have a lot of we have some lobelia syphilitica. We have 3 varieties of it, and it's completely hardy and does very well in damp soil. Then of course there's the Astrantias, and there's Filipendula, Elmeria,
Hmm.
and but that just to name a few.
Yeah, yeah. And then just take a step back to the native plants. So you're right in that a lot of people now are talking about native and specifying native. And if somebody specifies it, it can be quite limited in what's available generally. I'm not saying obviously you have some, but generally around the place it can be, it can be uh, limited in what's available. So what have you within that category? What's the sort of the
Yeah.
go-to plants there?
Well, first of all, I tell you something about my very early history.
Yeah.
That's about some 55 years ago or so. My father my father brought me and my siblings out on Sunday mornings for a walk in the wild, and to recognize the native plants, and that's and I loved it, and I started growing them when I was as an 8 years old, or like as growing them in a part of the garden, and I have a passion for native plants, and that's it's so well, just that is to emphasize that it's so important to teach your children, like to teach the younger generation the love for the plants. And I did it with my 3 children, and it worked only with my daughter. She's a botanist herself now. The rest is in IT or you name it. But yeah, but no, it is, especially in schools and so it's important. What do we have in native plants? Well, I, I I have a list of plants, and it's on the website. And the website has you can click on a link that says 30 lists for special purposes.
Okay.
And one of the lists, I think it's list number 16, is native Irish plants, and there you have the whole list of plants that we grow, like the meadowsweet, for instance. Yeah, yeah, and the native primrose and the
There's some great native primroses.
yeah, indeed, yeah.
There's some.
And the thing is, we can harvest the seeds here on the farm because they grow in the wildlife.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's the great thing about native plants. They're self-seeding as well if they're in the right position, and people have only to buy a few, and you get and they spread and they grow, like, and the cuckoo flower, of course. And
Yeah,
it's
no,
always nice. Now the cuckoo flowers are in flowering here. The cuckoo's there as well on the background. You hear him like
yeah, yeah.
here.
Yeah, something we used to hear years ago. Don't hear it so often now, occasionally, but not very often in this area here. But I can imagine in certain parts it's still there. Um, the 30 list, that's a great idea. So I saw that on your website this week when I was doing a little bit of research prior to the recording. So within that list, there's a list for damp shade or damp areas. There's a list of native plants. There's a list for colored perennial borders. There's loads of different lists there, and they're really useful for people. So once you know that you have a shaded area, you get that list of plants, and then you can have a look and see which ones you would like from that list. It's a really good idea.
Yeah, also there's a list of plants for coastal areas because that's usually a problem. People, and let's say plants that can cope with the salty sea spray.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's another one that people struggle with. I don't, unfortunately, but yeah, there is a lot of people that would struggle with that.
Yeah, and a very popular list is the plants that are let's say rabbits don't like, and another one plants that are not preferred by deer. But the thing there is, like, for deer, like they have all kind of things on the menu, like
yeah,
what they like. The one year they might skip for something else the next year. It's very hard. These
yeah.
lists are only, let's say, there's a list of plants that wouldn't be on the top of their menu. So to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, they wouldn't be the first choice. And just go back to the rabbits one for a minute. That's an interesting one because it is something that again, not here, but in certain areas people really struggle with rabbits. So what's kind of the top plants on that people would struggle for? I know you'll find it on the website anyway, but is there
Yeah.
any that spring to mind there on that list?
Well, usually the ones that have a lot of the spicy taste in them, like the herbs, like thyme and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
rosemary, and they don't like it very much.
Yeah, yeah. Don't want anything that's going to be like that. They're looking for more lush, perennial type plants.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's right. If it looks lush, it probably look lush for the rabbit as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned that there's a three-person team there. So, what's the? Do you have set roles, or do you all kind of? So you're all on
Yeah,
propagation
well,
today. You're all on potting tomorrow.
no, we have we all have different talents. Let's call it talents, and different and different uh, preferences as well. And as you know, well, because of my medical condition, I can't do heavy work. So the heavy work is done by somebody else, like, and then there's Kate, and Kate is, well, she's the arty one. Let's put it that way. She has a good feeling for plant combinations and all these things.
Yeah.
And she also does the, let's say, the social media thing. So if you read something, like, it's probably written by Kate. Well, first of all, because her English is better than my English is not my native language, of course. And yeah, and then and it's so funny. Every now and then we find new words. I say, that word we're gonna use. One of the last words we used was the word mandate. And I said, yeah, that's right. The grower has because a grower who's let's say growers are taught in college to spray the plants. Like now, growers don't have a license to kill. They would they would have a mandate to grow. Like
Mhm.
that's more like it.
Yeah, and this is a new word you've found lately.
Yeah, your word. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So be sure to look out on the website for the word mandate.
Yeah, yeah. So as I mentioned, and I think Des mentioned it, like you're a bit of a hidden gem down there, and obviously you have a lot of customers, but you're still being found by new customers all the time. So for anyone listening to the podcast, where can they find Caherhurley? How do you get in contact? What's the best route of approach? To make initial contact.
Well, to make initial contact, the best thing is to go to the website. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put the link in the
Yeah.
show notes anyway. So
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The link. Yeah. Yeah. Just go to the website, and then there's a thing the thing
the
where
contact.
we are, like how to find us, how to contact us. Yeah,
Brilliant.
that's the website. We are well, although we're a bit of a hidden gem, it is people find it very nice to be here, also because of the scenery around
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice area, and so if someone has the idea of getting a particular area sort of sketched up with a plants list and so on, you need to book a time slot for that. And again, you can do that.
yeah,
You can find the contact there through the website to do that, and then
yeah,
you'll be dealing with Kate in relation to that. And yeah, as I say, I'll put the link in the show notes anyway. Nursery that I'll get down to myself this summer, hopefully, and
yeah.
and say hello. Gert, it's been a really interesting chat. The nursery sounds fantastic. As I say, looking forward to seeing it at some point in the near future. But it's been a really interesting chat, and thank you very much for coming on Master My Garden podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Thanks.
So that's been this week's episode. Huge thanks to Gert for coming on. Really interesting. As I said, some of the best gardeners that have been on this show have mentioned Caherhurley over the last couple of years. So I thought it was a good idea to get them on. The plants, as we mentioned, particularly when we were talking with Des, they're a different type of plant. So these are a hardy plant that are going to thrive when they hit the ground in your place, and that's a different way of thinking as opposed to the really big lush ones that you might see in a 3 or 5 liter pot in a garden center. And it's to get used to that, because these guys will hit the ground and flourish and thrive, and every year they're going to get better and better. So it's great to see nurseries like that, and great to see people growing in that way. And then I suppose it's just a case of understanding yourself that these plants are designed this way, they're grown this way specifically to be hardy when they hit the ground in your home. So yeah, really, really, really interesting chat, and lots of great information in there. It's as I say, a nursery well worth checking out, and I'll put the link in the show notes to the website and so on. And that's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening, and until the next time, happy gardening.